rev up your engines. If you're planning on buying a Mercedes-Benz, today I'm going to show you a few things you should know before you buy one. See if it was made in Germany or not. And here we go. Check it out. Stuttgart, Germany. Realize they make cars all over the world now, and the ones that are made in Germany are much better than the ones made in other places. They've always made great engines in Germany. I've taken the plastic cover crap off so you can see this big V8. They've been making V8 engines for a long time, and really, they've pretty much perfected them. This is the CLS 550. It's got over 380 horsepower, but it's a normal V8 engine. There's no supercharger, turbocharger. Baby puts out the horsepower by itself, doesn't need any of those gimmicks, and therefore, it can last a lot longer with all that extra strain. And even though this baby's 15 years old, it's loaded with technology that you may love when you first buy it, and then end up hating when you find out how many thousands and thousands of dollars it costs to repair. As an example, here's the top of the strut. As you can see, it's got air pressure going in. It also has electricity going in it. These things are extremely complicated. When they work, sure, they ride like a dream. But on these, when they break, cars start tilting. And then you got to at least replace them in pairs. Now, they went on this one when it had about 70,000 miles. Ended up costing thousands of dollars. I tried to save the customer money by replacing one, but then the car sat sideways. Had to replace them both, and then about a year later, the back ones went out. Same thing, you got to replace them in pairs. And this, they got an airbag system too on the back, and half the car has to be taken apart to replace it. It even costs more than the front ones. Now, if you are going to buy a Mercedes, you're going to have to find a mechanic like me to work on it because they're not easy to work on. This particular system here was a German company, Arrow, but they recently got bought out by a Chinese company. So now instead of Arrow, it's called an Autel IM608. And you need something at least this strong to work on the vehicle. This particular one was about $5,000. Even stuff like changing the brake pads, you're going to need one of these to reset stuff with. You have to realize, having these things worked on and maintained is expensive. As an example, I was recently in San Francisco, and the Mercedes-Benz dealer there charges $225 per hour to work on your Mercedes. As you can see on the screen, there are millions of different things that you can check out. These are just the beginning of it. And that's just the motor section. There's all kinds of other sections, and each one of them has a subsection and a subsection. To operate all this complex electronics, buttons everywhere, you really need to understand electronics. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. When somebody has to fix them as they break, they really have to know their stuff, have scan tools, and know how to work them, because I met guys that said, oh yeah, I work on Mercedes. Then they get one of these fancy scan tools that they bought, and they're working on a car, and all of a sudden the car won't even start, and they don't know what to do. They just freeze in terror. One guy, you know, he had to bring it on a flatbed over here. Started up, won't even go in gear. Then when I finally figured out how to get it in gear, using my fancy computer, car wouldn't even move, had all kinds of brake warning. I said, what did you do to this car? And he responded, I just did a brake job on the car. I just changed the front brake pads and the sensors. He said, that's all I did. Then it wouldn't start and all this stuff came up. And he's not a liar, at least not to me. So I figured, well, he worked on the brakes. So I got on this, went into the electronic brake system. All I did was turn off the fancy supplemental electronic braking control unit. There's a way you can turn it off. Then I started the car, turned it off, and waited 15 minutes. The computer told me that would be a good thing to do, so I listened to it. I went back into the electronic braking system, and it sat there for about 5 minutes. It was going 0%, 1%. When it got to 99%, then 100%, take the key out and disconnect your scan tool. So I did. Then I started it up, lo and behold, it went into reverse. I drove it away. All the warning lights came on, and the brake system worked fine. And all the guy did was change brake pads. I figured somehow when he was squeezing the old pistons back in, that must have disturbed some kind of sensor. It gave a warning, and then in the dash it said, do not drive car fast, be careful. Well, that was all gone when I reset everything, and then it worked fine. You need a really good mechanic to work on these cars. You can't get them worked on at the corner gas station anymore. You can forget that. You need somebody who understands computer systems, has equipment to work on them. Just so many computer modules on these vehicles. This is an older one, but I worked on a newer one the other day. Hey, that thing had 87 separate computer modules, 87 of them, all connected together with a bus line. If you ever do have a Mercedes and you get any type of a serious wreck, take the payout money. Don't attempt to fix it. In my experience, these late model Mercedes, once they get crunched in that wiring, especially the computer bus wiring gets damaged, they're almost impossible to fix correctly. Now they are smooth running, quiet cars. There's no arguing that. But like any modern car, hey, they're full of plastic crap. Look at this. The grill's cracked already. I'm sure she probably bumped into something, but still, you know, that's pretty flimsy plastic. This stuff used to be made out of metal and it was nice and solid. And I do have to say that their Bosch anti-lock brake systems are state of the art. They were the people that really started safety seriously. And a big V8 engine. Hey, they're pretty much gas hogs. This particular one's rated at 14 miles a gallon in the city. I checked it with my computer. My customer's getting about 9.5 miles a gallon in Houston. You don't buy a Mercedes-Benz for gas mileage. You're gonna pay a lot for the car, you're gonna pay a lot for the fuel, and the insurance for that matter. Now, I'm too much of a cheapskate to ever buy one. I work on them, I road test them, and they're fun for a little while, then I'm bored. So if you don't mind the price tag and the outrageously expensive repairs you're gonna get, hey, go ahead and get yourself a Mercedes. Just make sure that it was made in Deutschland, if you don't mind the price. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.